Well, good evening. We are going to get started in just a second. We're waiting for our attendees to gain access to the webinar and get fully loaded in here. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started this evening. Welcome to our first of 4 on-track kickoff events. Tonight is, of course, for the class of 2025, so welcome seniors and parents and family members. We're going to kick off this evening with just a couple of reminders. If you have any questions throughout tonight's event, especially when we transition to our panel discussion, please use the chat and type in any questions that you have, and we will bring those into the discussion. My name's Britt. I'm with ICAN, and I'm going to kick us off tonight with just a discussion of senior year and some things to be aware of as you begin this last year of high school. So first off, you can see there on our screen, I want to thank all of our partners who help put on these virtual events. We have a lot of partners, some of which you're going to hear from tonight, and it really does take a village to get all of this information together and make sure that all of your questions and answers come through. So here at ICAN, if this is the first time you've connected with us, we're an education nonprofit here in the state of Iowa, and our mission is to empower Iowans to find success in career, college, and life. And one of the ways we do that is through events like this, where we connect students and parents with resources to help you in your planning process. We do offer advising services if you have any questions throughout this year, especially when it comes time to complete those FAFSA forms. We do offer those services free of charge. You can schedule an in-person or a virtual appointment. We have success centers located across the state, and we do advising on all of the things you see there on your screen: career exploration, college, preparing to pay for college, FAFSA completion assistance, talking about reviewing your financial aid packages and covering those costs. And if you are in a situation where you need to also do the CSS profile, we can help you with that as well. Jumping right in, some resources that ICAN offers that will be helpful to you this year. These are our resource materials. We do design these in-house. All of the material and content is directly related to the Iowa student experience. So we have our Life After High School guidebook, our How to Pay for College guidebook on the financial aid process. Both of those will be linked in the chat here in just a few minutes. You can also look at the senior calendar countdown to your future. That is going to take you month by month through your senior year and help you stay on track and make sure you're catching all those important moments and deadlines throughout this year. And then finally, there on the right is the Ready to File the FAFSA worksheet. We do create this and update it every year, so you can find the most recent version that will apply to the class of 2025 at icansucceed.org/what-to-bring. And that will tell you everything you need to know about gathering documents and information and preparing to file the FAFSA. So going through senior year, some things that you need to be aware of as a senior. So senior year is incredibly important to finish strong. You may be applying to colleges right now and using your freshman, sophomore, and junior year grades on your transcript, but you will have to submit a final transcript at the end of the year. So it is important to finish strong, to stay in the classes that matter for not only graduation, but admission next year. Stay involved as well outside of the classroom. Make sure that you are looking at the schools that interest you. Have 2 to 5 schools that you're serious about and ready to apply to. And be aware of those deadlines. There are admission deadlines, scholarships, housing, and financial aid. Every college is a little bit different. So if you have a few colleges in mind that you're interested in, it's really important to look up those deadlines, create a timeline for those schools, and make sure you're meeting any deadlines those colleges have. In terms of general deadlines, we do recommend getting a jump start on your college admission applications. College application month is in October. We recommend trying to get your applications in November 1st to mid-November. Thanksgiving is a good endpoint there, so you have plenty of time to focus on financial aid and housing and scholarships. The FAFSA will open this year. I'm going to hit that in a minute, but FAFSA opens December 1st. That's not your deadline. That's just your first available opportunity. When you're applying for college, there's lots of different pieces and parts of an application. Again, every college is going to be a little bit different. You're going to ask for basic demographic information. Some of them may require you to write an essay, others won't. They will want your official high school transcript. If you have chosen to take an ACT or an SAT score, there will be a spot for that on the application. Letters of recommendation. Do not wait until the last minute, if you don't already have them, to ask someone to write one. You're going to get a better letter if you give whoever you're asking time to really put some effort and time into it. An activity resume is also a nice thing to either use to fill out the application or attach when applicable. That's going to be an outline of any of accomplishments and involvement and work experience you've had while you've been in high school. Some will have application fees. You'll want to take care of that. Some may even have an admission interview. So go through and look at all of the steps that are required for each school that interest you. Again, each school will have their own process that may involve a few other things that others don't require. Talking about that FAFSA, before you file the FAFSA, there's a step that you have to do at least 3 to 5 days before. So you have to have your studentaid.gov account set up ahead of time. This is going to serve as your legal signature on the FAFSA. Each student needs one and one parent needs one. You cannot use the same email address, but take the time to set these accounts up in advance. You can do that at studentaid.gov, and everyone who has to put information on the form will need a studentaid.gov account to do that. As I mentioned earlier, the FAFSA will be available for the class of 2025 starting December 1st. Now, that is not your deadline. That is the first day the FAFSA is available. You don't actually have a deadline for the FAFSA. What you have is a priority date, and every college has their own priority date. So you want to file your FAFSA by the earliest priority date you have for the colleges that you're interested in, which means if you're interested in a school and their priority date is February 1st, that's your deadline. But if you're looking at schools where the priority date isn't until March 1st, that becomes your deadline. You can look up every college in Iowa. We have all of their priority dates on our website. So you can look those up on the ICAN website and figure out when your FAFSA deadline is. But by filing for that priority date, that is your best chance at the most financial aid. If you file by the priority date, you're going to get access to as much financial aid as you qualify for. But if you file after the priority date, there's no guarantee that you'll get everything you could have, because it may have already been given away to people who met that priority date. So if you're looking at multiple schools, look up all the priority dates, whichever one is earliest, that is your FAFSA deadline. When you get ready to file the FAFSA, it's important to have your federal tax forms and W-2s on hand. Now, most of your financial information is going to get automatically pulled into the FAFSA now through a sharing system in the form with the IRS, but it's good to have some stuff on hand just in case. Read all of the directions carefully. This is not a form that you want to try and go through as fast as possible. Take your time, and if you have questions, you can always save it, get your answers, and then come back. It's important to take that time and ask questions. Now, this is something that ICAN can help you with. We do offer free FAFSA completion assistance. Once you do have that FAFSA filed, make sure you keep a copy for your records. And you're going to do the FAFSA every year that you go to college. So when you file the FAFSA this year as a senior, that is only for your first year of college. So next year, when you're in your freshman year, next fall, you have to file the FAFSA again for your second year of college, and so on and so forth until you graduate. There's lots of help available throughout the state. We run a program called FAFSA Ready Iowa, where we partner with lots of community organizations and colleges and high schools across the state of Iowa to help complete the FAFSA. Now, the state goal is to have a 60% statewide completion rate for high school seniors each year. And you can do that through getting help with these events. So we have, of course, the events I've already mentioned. You can get one-on-one assistance to any of our centers or virtually with one of our advisors. There are lots of high schools that we partner with that host FAFSA completion events in their school. So you can talk to your school counselor and see if that's something that's going to happen, and you can sign up for that event. And then there are also a lot of community-based events that are hosted by community organizations, libraries, community colleges, or universities. And a lot of those are just, they hold it on a date, you can walk in and get help. So all of those events will be posted there on the website you see, FAFSA Ready IA. Now, why are we talking so much about the FAFSA? The FAFSA is your first step for financial aid, and it's going to open the door to a lot of different things. So there's different types of financial aid that you can gain access to. There's gift aid, which you don't have to pay back. So these are your grants and your scholarships. And you can get grants and scholarships in two categories: merit-based and need-based. Merit-based is going to be based on your grades or your involvement, your outside of the classroom achievements, and then need-based is going to be based on financial circumstances. Then there's self-help aid, which is work study or having a job on campus or taking out a student loan. All four of these are types of financial aid, and all four of these can be accessed by first filling out the FAFSA. There may be a few other applications for merit-based scholarships and things like that, additional paperwork you have to fill out if you do want a student loan, but step one is that FAFSA. I mentioned earlier having an activities resume. This, if you don't have one, it would be a great first step this senior year to create one. This is just a organized set of information about where you went to school, your academic achievements, any activities that you've been involved in, leadership positions, honors, awards, community service. It really helps you organize everything that you have done. And this really comes in handy not only for admission applications or giving to someone to write a letter of recommendation, but this is really helpful when you start filling out scholarship applications. So having this ready to go will be a time saver in that process. And we do have a template if you do not have one. We do have a template that is available that I will pop into the chat. Next up, private scholarships. So step one is file the FAFSA. Step two is check with the colleges and see if they have a separate financial aid application or scholarship application you need to complete. After that, you can look at private scholarships, and there are lots of places to look. Check with your school counselor about local scholarships that may be available to you in your community. Check with the employers that maybe you have a job and they offer a scholarship, or your parents' employers, sometimes they might have scholarships. Check with any professional or religious organizations that you might be affiliated with or that are in your community that support students, local businesses. And then visit our website, icansucceed.org/scholarships. We maintain a thorough list of a lot of different scholarships. And if you sign up for our senior alerts, you will get a monthly email beginning in November of all of the scholarships that are due that month. You can also, on that page of our website, we also list other safe sources for scholarship information. Some of those would include the links that are on this page. Now, you don't have to write all of these down because the booklets that are going to be linked in the chat, as well as on our website, have all of these links there for you. But these are just some sites that we know are safe. So the second one, educateiowa.gov, that is the state of Iowa's financial aid application. The state of Iowa does give out scholarships and grants. You just have to fill out the state's application as well. So for parents on the line, how can you help your seniors this year? Set some expectations and talk about what those are with your students so there are no surprises, not only as they finish senior year, but what are the expectations as they go off to their next steps? Are there academic expectations? Financial, who's paying the bill? How is that going to work? Are there spending limits? Having that conversation now is much, much better than when we see some families having it for the first time when we fill out the FAFSA and they're trying to set that budget come March or April and you're making decisions. Start having those conversations now. Social life, are you taking a car to campus? Have those kinds of conversations. Living arrangements, furniture, things like that. You don't have to have it all planned out, but start having some of those family conversations now. As I finish up my section of tonight, I just want to give you some information on some upcoming things and how you can continue to get planning help throughout the year. I mentioned senior alerts. You can visit icansucceed.org/sign up, and you can sign up if you don't already receive our senior alerts, which is updates throughout the year. We're going to remind you about admission applications. We're going to send you those scholarship deadlines every month. We're going to remind you about the FAFSA, and then we're going to remind you about the FAFSA, and then we're probably going to remind you about the FAFSA. We're going to talk about housing. We're going to remind you about how to do financial aid offer comparisons, decision day, everything you need to know. There's also tip of the week you can sign up for that comes out once a week. It's a video tip on a topic. You can follow us on social media or look back at any of our planning seminars, virtual webinars, and things on our YouTube channel. If you're still trying to decide where to apply or where to go, the largest college fair in the state of Iowa is coming up this Sunday in Des Moines. So we host the Golden Circle College and Career Fair every year, and it has the largest variety of colleges and universities of any fair that's held in the state. So right now we're looking at around 80 colleges and universities from across the country will be there on Sunday, and it's a free event. It's from 1 to 3. So I know the weather is looking a little warm. Maybe it'll be nice to come visit us inside a nice air-conditioned ballroom and talk with some colleges and universities. Another event that's coming up in Hiawatha, so in the Cedar Rapids side of the state, on October 17th, if military, like an ROTC program, a military academy, or even direct enlistment or National Guard is in your potential plan, we will have a military career fair on October 17th in Hiawatha from 6 to 8. And while it's not on the slide because it was just confirmed today, we're also going to host one in Cedar Falls on October 29th. We will also be hosting ones throughout the year in Ankeny, Sioux City, and Council Bluffs, but those dates are not yet confirmed. So again, if you sign up for those alerts, you'll get that information as well. I'm now going to turn it over for a few minutes to one of our guest speakers, Tara Kamen from ISL Education Lending.
Hi, thank you so much, and thanks for letting me be part of this event. As Britt said, I am Tara with ISL Education Lending. We are a nonprofit organization that has been around for over 40 years, and our mission is to help Iowa students and families obtain the resources necessary to succeed in post-secondary education. So basically, our goal is to help students and families plan smart and pay less for college. What I wanted to talk to you about tonight is 2 different opportunities to win some money for college while also getting some education on how to plan successfully for college. The first service that I'm going to talk about is for parents specifically, and it's called SP3, or our Student Planning Pointers for Parents. It is a free email service, and it is designed to help parents and their students plan for education and training after high school. So it's for parents of students that have students 8th through 12th grade. Basically, when you register, you receive 2 emails each month that direct you to just very brief articles, timely tips that's applicable to your student's grade level, and other resources to help you have the conversations with the students about what they want to do after high school. So specifically, for instance, for parents of seniors, a lot of the articles this year would talk about the FAFSA, which Britt has mentioned a lot already, college applications, searching for scholarships, resume writing skills, many other topics, but those are just some examples. Registration is very easy. You just register at sp3.org, which is on the slide here. And you just get a little bit of demographic information and sign up your student's grade level. But then you also have opportunities to be entered into quarterly drawings to win money towards a 529 college savings account. So we draw 40 winners each quarter for $250 deposits, and you can win each and every quarter. You just have to read the article and answer the survey question, and you're eligible for that. And then there's one other opportunity I wanted to talk about. As mentioned, scholarships are a great way to help you pay for college. So right now, we have open our ISL Education Lending Scholarship, and that is open now through December 4th. And we give away, for this program, 45 $1,000 deposits into a College Savings Iowa account. It's a random drawing. So again, registration is very simple, and it's open to Iowa residents who are high school students, undergraduate college students, or parents and guardians or other individuals who say, or who have a iSave 529 account, can also register for the student. So it gives you a couple of chances to win. And then once you register for the scholarship, there are a couple of tips on some financial literacy information, and then we also email you some college planning tips throughout the program. But again, a great opportunity. It's just a random drawing, 45 $1,000 deposits. So I encourage everyone to sign up. Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. And then I want to introduce Danielle Sampson from the Iowa Department of Education's Bureau of Iowa College Aid, and she's going to talk about one of their services that can also help you guys this year.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Britt. So today we're going to go ahead and just discuss a little bit about our virtual college coach texting program that we offer. Very similar to the concept that Britt shared about with ICAN, and that they send out emails. Sometimes text messages are the way to go. So we have chosen to do the text messages along with what ICAN does with the emails. So really gets you that information in a couple of different ways for you and your students, or any family member that might be helping out with the college going process. So these messages are for students and parents in grades 9 through 12. Anyone is able to sign up within that grade level span, because we really specifically connect you to the correct messages that go along with the grade level that you are working with. If you have students that are in multiple grade levels within the span of 9th through 12th grade, you can fill the form out in that way as well. I am going to go ahead and share the form with you in case you don't have your cell phone with you, or in case you are using your cell phone to watch this and can't scan that QR code. This is the link to sign up for those text messages. But what you'll receive in this process is one-to-one support with college applications, FAFSA, financial aid reviews, scholarship applications that are sent directly to your phone, tips and reminders to support you through the college going steps, and information and reminders about regional events that might be happening in your area. What's nice about this is that this is a real person sending you these text messages. So we do send out a mass message, but at that point, after that mass message is sent out to everyone that wants to receive it for that specific grade level, if you respond back to that message, then you start initiating a one-to-one conversation with our college coach. And it is a real person, not an AI generated message to you, trying to organize and support your college going process.
Thanks, Danielle.
Yeah.
So I'm going to end my segment tonight with just our website and show you, so icansucceed.org. If you visit our website, if you want to make an appointment with an advisor and talk about any part of the program, planning process, career, college, financial aid, come right to our website and click the schedule an appointment button, and you will be able to book virtually. You'll see the calendar and be able to pick. Up here at the very top on every single page of our website, it says resource library. That is where you can find downloadable PDFs of all of our resources. So if you need any help there, you can go right there and find that. And then these 3 tabs, career planning, college planning, financial aid, you can read through and find any information that you might need. So I am going to now turn it over to my colleague Eric, and I will man the chat. If there are questions in there that haven't been gotten to, I will answer those or share them with Eric, and I will start posting some of the links that I talked about throughout my section. So Eric, it is all yours.
Thank you very much, Britt. Appreciate it. Yeah, we were answering some questions in there. And before I bring in the panelists, I just want one thing I wanted to mention that was asked a few times. We are recording this program, and we're going to send it out to all of you that are registrants. And so anybody that registered, we're going to send, once we have the recording, probably at some time tomorrow, to everybody that registered, as well as put it on our YouTube link. So you all will get a copy of this that you can review back later as well. what I want to get into right now is we've got 5 different panelists coming from different backgrounds that I'm going to ask some questions that we prepared ahead of time. But also, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box for any of our participants here on the panel, and we will have them try to answer those questions for you. First of all, I'm going to have each panelist introduce themselves. And so I'm going to start with our school counselor we have tonight, Maria.
Hi, my name is Maria Solendik. I am a kindergarten through 12th grade school counselor, and I'm happy to kind of help seniors and the adults who are helping them go through the college process.
Thanks, Maria. Appreciate you being here. We've got 2 colleges and university admissions reps that are going to be participating tonight. One is from Simpson College, Jamie.
Hi, my name is Jamie Deering. I'm a first year admissions counselor at Simpson. This process can be so confusing for families, and it really doesn't have to be that way. So I love helping out with ICAN events to make it seem a little less confusing for you guys.
Well, thanks, Jamie. And tonight you also brought along a student from Simpson to get their perspective. So Emma, I'm going to have you introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm Emma and I'm currently a senior on Simpson's campus with some accounting and business management degrees, and I work in the admissions office. I'm an undergraduate assistant there, so see Jamie every day, and also happy to help and provide a student perspective.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for taking the time in a, I'm sure, busy schedule as a student when being with us tonight. From the University of Iowa, longtime friend and admissions counselor, Chris Trado.
Thanks, Eric, and thanks to ICAN for letting us participate tonight. Chris Trado, Associate Director of Admissions at the U of I. I help oversee all the outreach and recruitment within the state, and happy to answer questions that we have tonight. So thanks again.
And Chris also brought along a student tonight, Maisie.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Maisie. I'm a current senior at the University of Iowa. I'm studying speech and hearing sciences with a psychology minor. I've worked in the admissions office since the second semester of my freshman year, but I just recently became an admissions representative. So I'm happy to answer questions along with Chris, although he is a little bit more knowledgeable than I am. But we work together every day and I love all things admissions. I went through the college application process myself as well, so I'm happy to share any experiences that you would like.
Well, thanks, Maisie, also for taking the time tonight to be here. I'm actually going to start it off. I don't know if this is necessarily a curveball. This is actually a question right now that's in the chat box. And Chris, I'm going to start with you on this question. Somebody asked that, I think a parent that, or a student, might be a student, I'm confused regarding applying for college. If you are accepted, what locks you in that school and makes it so that you have to go to that college?
Yeah, I'm going to speak in real generalities quickly in the sense of when a student at majority of schools in Iowa, really almost all of them, to be honest with you, by applying to our universities just gives you access to them, right? So if you're fortunate enough to get admitted to our university or colleges, then now you know that the student in this case has the opportunity to attend that college. For us, it doesn't become more secured, I use the word, until a student pays their acceptance fee. And that comes a little bit later. So for most colleges, if a student gets admitted hypothetically here shortly, or has been already, they have until May 1st of their senior year, is what we utilize as a deadline, until May 1st of their senior year to accept our offer or commit to us. And when that occurs, then we feel confident that that student is ultimately going to enroll.
Jamie, I just wanted to check to see if there was anything you wanted to add into that.
Nope, we are pretty much the same timeline. By getting accepted with your application, you have access to come to Simpson, and then your final decision, or like Chris said, commitment would come in the form of an enrollment deposit, not due until May 1st.
Thank you. One other question I wanted to address real quickly, and this is one I will take. has been about the FAFSA form and parents asking if parents are divorced, who's the parent that is responsible for filling out the FAFSA form for 25-26 for their student? The answer to that is it's the parent that the student has received the most financial support from in the last year from whenever you fill out that form. So whether it's December 1st, January 1, February 1, if that is mom, then it's just mom's information that's going to go on the form. Unless mom would be remarried as of the day you're filling out the form, then we would need mom and step parent information from 2023. Even if they weren't remarried in 2023, if they're remarried as of the day they're filling out the form, we would need mom and step parent information. Somebody did ask the question if there's a 50-50 split and even in supporting the child, then who fills it out? Well, then the parent that fills it out is the one that has the highest income and assets. That's the one that's supposed to do it from there. So I've gotten 3 or 4 questions on that, so I wanted to go ahead and address that right now as well. Please keep those questions coming. We appreciate it. My next question is actually going to be to you, Maria, from the school council perspective. What are some of the important things students should be doing as a high school senior?
So I think the first thing that seniors should be doing is making sure that they're finishing their high school career strong. A lot of them get very focused on what's coming with the college world after, but senior year is still very important to make sure that their grades are being kept up, that they're taking those required courses not only to graduate from high school, but also if they have required courses for college. There's a foreign language requirement or higher level math that they should be taking, either it's required or recommended. Those are really important things for students to maintain throughout senior year and not get so focused on college that they forget that high school is still really leading up to them being really successful in college. So that's one of the first things that I talk to my seniors about is looking at credits, looking at the high school side of things as their foundation for success leading up to college. And then after that, if they know that they're on track and having what they need so that they can get through that college application and be a really strong applicant, is looking at doing the actual application, making sure that they have everything they need from a transcript that reflects them and what they're doing, from a resume, like what Britt had said, that's something really important too. Those are all things that should be built up and something that students should be working on ahead of the application. That way they're not doing the application and finding out that there's missing information that could have been handled sooner. They just didn't know or they didn't prioritize it. Those would be some of the main things that I would tell students to really look at now as they're going into their senior year.
I'm going to now thank you, Maria. I'm now going to get our students involved here with the first question. Emma, I'll start with you. Kind of along the same lines, but what advice would you give to high school seniors this year?
Yes, I would definitely say first off, soak it up while you have it. College is definitely a different experience, both for the good. I mean, pros and cons to it all, but definitely soak it up. But then also keep in mind the future planning. Kind of that balance is a big important thing that college is very useful and I've had a very good experience so far. So just kind of start brainstorming what you want long term in a career. And then also while you're doing that college search, what is most important to you when looking for a college, whether that's a certain academic program, ways to get involved, the size of the campus, the location of the campus, you name it.
Maisie, the same question to you. What advice, would you give high school seniors this year?
Yeah, I know we're already probably about a month for most of you into most school years, but my advice is to start early. A lot of college applications are already open. My best advice is to at least kind of open the application, see what they're looking for, start brainstorming and looking at different things like your ACT scores, your GPA, start getting your transcripts, all of those things, because you don't want to get kind of stuck, I think, later on in the application process. You want to make sure you have everything that you need and you can get that those applications in, especially so that you are ready for those next steps, such as housing and the FAFSA. That way you can make sure it gets sent where you want it. Also, something I did pretty early in my senior year is I like physically wrote out and made a checklist of like the top 5 or 6 things I wanted from a school. What if I, distance from home, what kind of program I wanted. I was very interested in the medical field, so I wanted to go somewhere that had, a reputable health sciences program. And physically write those out so you can see them in front of you. That way, when you are choosing schools, you kind of have something to reference that you know is important to you. Because when you're touring schools, you can kind of, forget and just, think about how awesome the buildings are or something like that. But you want to make sure you have your core values in mind while doing so.
Thanks, Maisie. And you had mentioned the word FAFSA, and somebody did mention as one of the questions in here. They said, in light of the FAFSA debacle last year, which debacle I think is making it kind on what happened with the FAFSA form this past year for families, what advice do you have for lucky families applying for it this year? What I just want to mention is December 1, again, as Britt had mentioned earlier, is the start date. So it usually it started October 1st. This last year it was December 31st. This year it is December 1st. What we've been told is that it should be fully functional at that time. They are actually going to do some test groups here in October and November. So we are hoping on December 1st that it's going to be fully functional in being able to for families to complete it. And quite honestly, a lot of families were able to complete it fairly easy last year. What come after that, as far as getting the results to colleges and universities, and some of those were messed up, is what caused a lot of the debacle as well. So in other words, we're hoping to try to be positive at this time, keeping fingers crossed. I still think we're in a show me mode, even though we're not in Missouri, we're in Iowa. It's still going to be a show me state for us, and I think the whole country to make sure it's working. But right now, that's the advice I would say. And just as a reminder, as we're talking about deadlines starting early, December 1 is going to be the earliest that any of you can fill out a FAFSA this year for students going off in the fall of 2025 and spring and summer of 26. Now, we had another question, and Jamie, I'm going to start with you this time. Somebody asked, ACT or SAT, is it always needed? So leading into talking about ACT or SAT, I'll start with you and then come to Chris.
Okay, so Simpson doesn't require an ACT or an SAT score to get admitted to the school. We also don't offer any additional yearly aid based on ACT or SAT scores. I know that some schools do that. We do have one very specific scholarship for students who earn above a 32 ACT with a 4.0 GPA. And they also have to be in the top 5% of their class. And they get a one-time scholarship, which is an awesome opportunity, but not one, unlike the yearly aid. You wouldn't want to, continue taking the ACT if you're, have a score in the 20s, which is still great. Retaking it to try to get the most yearly aid. So that's kind of the difference that Simpson, how we handle it. Yeah. Did I answer that clearly?
Yeah. And I know every college is a little bit different. We're going to encourage every student, no matter which school they're looking at, to check with admissions reps like yourself, just to make sure that they're taking advantage of anything they may need, since it is going to be different from school to school. In fact, we'll probably hear a little bit. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and I'm glad you said that, because I do encourage all students to take one or the other, because a lot of times you won't even know until you don't want to be last minute, like, oh shoot, I need an ACT or SAT score for a scholarship or to be admitted to a school. So I encourage all students to take the ACT. I feel like it's one of those growing things. We just got to do it, right? Yeah, it's a good experience, but I do encourage all students to do it.
Chris, to get your perspective at Iowa with the ACT or SAT.
Yeah, sure. I usually start, Eric, with saying a ACT or a SAT gives you a pathway to options. It allows the student to have that at their disposal. And then you, depending on what the score is, the outcome, you have a choice. You have a choice to deliver that score if that's indicative of who you are. You have a choice to leave that off. And I will reiterate what Eric just said. That is an institutional decision. So especially if you're looking at out of state schools, more selective schools, That's something you definitely want to comb through their website or talk to their admissions offices, because some of them might require that. But for us at the University of Iowa currently, we do not require an ACT or SAT for admission. However, there are some of our scholarships. We have two pots of money, if you will, one for students who apply without a test score and one who apply with a test score. So just be aware that there could be some differential. If a student does well on the test, they should deliver that to the colleges. It could enhance some of their merit scholarships.
When you're talking about, earlier we had mentioned about priority dates. Chris, when is the University of Iowa priority dates going to be? And also somebody had asked, when realistically might somebody get a financial aid package from the University of Iowa, for example?
Yeah,
this
I'm
year?
gonna pause. It's a good question. Real quick before I'm gonna go back to my ACT comment. The other question to ask is since we're speaking to mostly seniors or senior families here, some schools will allow you to continue to take the ACT or SAT throughout your senior year. Not that you want to continue with that, but for us, to give you an example, we will allow the February test date is the last one we will accept for potential scholarship improvement. And I bring that up purely just to say it's another thing to think about when you're communicating with these institutions. Like, is there a deadline that we have to have it done by? Next question, Eric. Sorry. With regards to the FAFSA, yes, opens December 1. We have a priority deadline of February 1st. Now, like they mentioned earlier, if it's a little bit later, then we understand that, but our priority deadline is February 1. And we're optimistic. All colleges are going to try to get their financial aid offer letters or packages out as soon as they can. Realistically, for us, it will be sometime in the month of March.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. And I know, honestly, we just found out about some of this. So any of you families that are asking colleges and universities, they can vary on when they may be getting them out. They may not even know yet because we just heard a month ago about this FAFSA being moved to December 1. And obviously, the colleges and universities are at the hands of getting the results back, which they didn't receive until starting middle of March last year, which meant a delay in the process. Jamie, when is Simpson's FAFSA priority date and an idea maybe when financial aid packages might be coming out?
If all goes well and we receive the FAFSA data from the Department of Education mid-December, late December, then we usually, whenever we get that, it's usually like 2 weeks to a month after we receive that data. So that's like a huge part of us being able to say when we get it out. Yeah, we work pretty hard to get those out as soon as possible because we know it's, a big part of your decision. Also, I wanted to mention that Simpson being a private school, there's also something called the Iowa Tuition Grant that does have a deadline. And Eric, the deadline has been moved this year a few times. What is the normal year deadline for that? Do you know?
Usually the normal deadline is the state deadline of July 1, which most times is way later than
Okay.
any college priority date.
Okay, so thank you. So that's just another thing that you'll want to get your FAFSA in sooner rather than later for that, but no specific deadlines for Simpson.
Well, thank you. And please, again, keep those questions coming. We'll try to answer some as we're going along. Maria, I'm going to come back to you. What are some of the mistakes that you see students make during their senior year in high school?
I think one of the mistakes that I see from students is not doing local scholarships. There's often this idea that because they're typically valued at less money, somehow they're not going to be as beneficial. But if students are spending maybe 30 minutes to an hour doing a scholarship that gives them $500, most jobs aren't going to pay you $500 for that amount of time. So that's one mistake that I see students. They kind of leave money on the table that they could have. The other thing that I would say that I see students do is not take advantage of different opportunities that their high school has with going on college visits, meeting with people who are admissions counselors who come to their school to get those direct answers to their questions. And I do know that there's been several questions from high school students about being able to leave their high school because of the new state attendance policy, and there are concerns about what that will do if they leave to go job shadow or meet with admissions and go on a trip out of town for that, especially if they're looking to travel and miss an entire day of school. So I would say having that communication with the school to find out what's already being offered that they can take advantage of at their school, not just for scholarships, but for anything connected to college. Are there visit days? Is there a class that's taking a trip to a college? So, several schools will do that too. And then finding out what does that look like if they're going to be leaving, especially now with the attendance policy, because there are several opportunities for students. They just have to take advantage of them and not kind of go through mentally what they think will be the priority and end up really leaving a lot of opportunity out there. And every school is different as to how they put that information out. So some schools will have it posted somewhere, Google Classroom, a school website. Some counselors use Remind, that will kind of push out information. But knowing what opportunities are out there and just being really open to that, I think, is going to be a key thing for students too. And it also helps them determine if they're between majors or between schools, what one's going to be the best fit. All those opportunities help students identify what's going to meet their values and their needs better than just kind of having the lack of opportunity that actually is there for them if they just take advantage of that.
Thanks, Maria. And again, this kind of, we trying to tie into bringing in our students into it this time. Maisie, I'll start with you this time. What are some of your high school experiences that really prepared you for the transition to college?
Yes, so I took quite a few courses through the local community college. So I'm from a Des Moines suburb, so I took some classes through DMAC, which is the Des Moines Area Community College, which were able to then transfer and kind of help me get some credits in before I even got to the University of Iowa. But that was also nice because then I kind of got to learn some of what like my college course structures would be. I got to kind of learn how to create relationships with my professors. And I started doing some college level writing before I even got to college, which really, really helped me as well. So if you have that opportunity, absolutely do it. And for lack of a better term, I think getting, I did the usual babysitting and like I worked at the local ice cream shop, things like that. But again, for lack of a better term, I also got kind of like a more grown-up job. I don't know. I worked in a pharmacy because that's kind of what I was interested in studying. And that really helped me realize kind of what areas of pharmacy that I wouldn't want to work in versus what I would want to work in. It also taught me a lot about accountability, and I did a lot of important work in the community through that, which really strengthened my resume and gave me something to talk about in like my honors college application that I filled out and a bunch of things like that. It gave me some great people for my letters of recommendation that I needed later on. So, kind of, branching away from the more fun jobs and getting, if you can, a job or even an internship in your, kind of related field, I thought was a really good thing for me to do.
Hey, thanks, Maisie. I'm sure that there was some ice cream occasionally within the pharmacy as well, not just there, but that always helps within any job. Emma, same question to you. High school experiences that helped prepared you from your transition to college.
Yes, absolutely. I'm realizing that Maisie and I are like the same exact person. I also went to a Des Moines suburb school. I also worked at an ice cream shop. So apparently that's one way to do it. But everybody's journey is so different. I would definitely highlight as well, if you have the opportunity to do dual enrollment or some classes through a community college, that's a great transition between the two. And then also, like I said, everybody's journey is so different. So maybe you're a high school athlete and you really pour into your sport, and that kind of helps you with the college transition. I'm just kind of thinking in like the resume form of things. It doesn't always have to be your experience directly in a job. There's so many skills that are transferable from different involvements throughout high school that can kind of help you prepare for college. But yeah, definitely take advantage of any of those part-time jobs or internships, whatever that may look like, to kind of start balancing different priorities, since in college you're going to have academics, you're going to have a job, maybe you're going to have different club involvements, whereas high school, you go to school for 7 hours straight and then you're done. So just kind of getting those different things into your schedule to help with time management and accountability.
Great. Thank you. Next, I'm going to go back to our admissions folks, and there was a question that I'm curious on how you might answer this question, or if you have to deal with it much at your college. Chris, I'll start with you. Somebody was asking, what are admissions counselors looking for in college essays? And so not only that question, but is there much you have to deal with, say for the University of Iowa, in essays, or in general, if anybody has to write a college essay?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think that could vary at each. It's gonna be continuous here. It's gonna vary at every college, right? With what our expectations are. For us at a larger public university, um, the initial one would be like on a personal statement. So if somebody needed to supply a personal statement, quote unquote, essay for their application, we don't require that, but it could be asked from a student depending on what their academic profile was. We usually tell people first and foremost, it's quality, not quantity. Making sure you're writing something that's authentic. For some students, they could deliver that in 2 or 3 paragraphs. For some students, it takes a page and a half because they have a story to tell. So I think that's going to be uniquely customized to each prospective student. Um, I do think it doesn't have to be like you're going to go out there and I'll use save the world. It's something it could be very micro, that's impacted you locally, in the sense of your transition from maybe middle school to high school, volunteerism, um, a legacy situation where your parents or your grandparents attended the institution that you want to disclose because it wasn't asked on the application. I think you catch my drift here. There's a lot of different avenues that it could come with. And for us, the only real big, I would say, essay or prompt that some of our majors, our direct admission majors, I'll use College of Nursing as an example, they ask for a supplemental form and an essay. And then for our honors college, we require students to supply an essay as well, but there will be a prompt delivered and you just have to follow the directions. That's the other thing I'll end with, is if they ask for a certain word count, make sure you adhere to that.
Great advice. Jamie, I'll throw that out to you. Anything at Simpson it might be used for, or any other advice you would give students writing a college essay?
Yeah, so specifically at Simpson, we don't require most of our applicants to submit a personal essay or a college essay. The students that we do often require it from are students who have a 2.6 GPA to a 3.0 GPA, that we might ask write a personal statement and give us a little insight about your academic journey, anything that's impacted you, and what about Simpson might make you feel like you're going to be successful while you're here. Our admissions committee is made up of professors from across campus, so they're really interested in hearing how you're going to thrive as a student at Simpson, and we want to make sure that you're able to maintain academic progress while you're here. In terms of advice, I would just have somebody read your essay before you submit it. I know sometimes that can be weird to ask mom or dad or sister, hey, could you read this, vulnerable essay about, my grades? I know that can be weird, but find somebody, a friend or something, just to proofread it, get some other eyes on there before you submit it.
Absolutely. That would have been besides what Chris said about following directions, which is, and I'm thinking in terms of scholarship, because being on some scholarship committees, I think my colleague Britt would say the same thing, being on some scholarship committees, when we're reading essays, you can tell ones that have been proofread and ones that not. Having another pair of eyes on that, whoever it might be, is some great advice, and then do it exactly as the instructions say. And I would say the same thing would be obviously for college essays as well. So thank you.
I
For
have
that.
been known to toss an essay and say no based on a misspelling in the first sentence or grammar, simply because if I'm reading 200 essays, they're not going to get it. So, I mean, those little details matter just as much as the story you're telling in that essay.
And leading into that, talking about this was about college essays, but scholarships. My next question, I think this kind of tees it up for you, Maria. Somebody had asked, where's the best place to look for local scholarships?
Absolutely, your school counselor. They are the ones who are getting all of the contact from local church groups and families, memorial scholarships, places of business, places that you have never even heard of that now have one and they'd like to offer that. I've had that even recently too. They are going to be the place that is going to not only get those, but they might be the person responsible in your community for collecting them. So that will be an important thing for students to know too. Once they do the application, where does it go? Some are emailed, some are to be mailed, and some are directly handed off to the school counselor, and the school counselor will maintain a file with all of those and then give that back to the organization or the family. If your senior doesn't know yet who their school where their school counselor keeps those, if they're posted somewhere, if they're on a website, your senior should be asking for that because the school counselor is going to start getting things. And I will say too, they're okay asking for what the timeline on those local scholarships is. Your school counselor will know that information. They might give you information based on pre-FAFSA stuff last year because that was very different. I know at my school, a lot of scholarships were kind of on hold until FAFSA stuff started rolling in. And so I was maintaining a lot of communication to try and get those sooner for students who are kind of just waiting for the FAFSA application. Your students can ask their school counselor what that looks like and what they expect for this year. That will also help you and them have an idea about the timeline. So that as you're considering financial decisions for the college, not only with FAFSA, not only with scholarships through that school, but the local ones, you'll have an idea of when you may get all that information to really understand how much that school is going to cost. If you're thinking that everything comes out in fall, and it turns out everything comes out in the spring, that's a very different look for your understanding of what's out of pocket. So maybe a long answer, but definitely talk to your school counselor. They're the ones who are going to be getting all of that and possibly collecting it. So they will give you a good idea, a general idea about what to expect for senior year.
Maria, when would you say most local scholarship deadlines are? And I know they can vary, but when are most probably going to be due?
In my community, I tell students they usually are coming out pretty heavy in March and April with a lot of deadlines in April and May. So prior to that March time, students should have an idea about how they would answer general questions. I've even had students who will just Google like common essay questions for scholarships and have an idea mentally of what they might write about. By that time too, they should also have a resume that includes activities and community service, because I see that much more frequently on local scholarships, and having one, even in a Google Doc, allows them to tailor that, just cut and paste, move a few things, really adjust it for the local ones. And because, at least in my community, I feel like there's about a 2-month window where they come in really pretty quickly, and I'm sharing those out a lot with students. Students then are prepared. They're not having it come in and feeling like, well, now I can't do this because there's so much on my plate. I'm getting ready for graduation, and now I have all this on top of it. So for me, it's the spring. It did change a little bit last year because, FAFSA was a little tricky. But your school counselor can tell you when to expect those so that you can have things like your resume and your activities list prepared ahead of time.
Thank you. Thank you. Back to a student question here. Emma, I'll start with you this time. What factors were most important to you in picking a college?
Yes, I kind of mentioned these a little bit earlier, but I tend to look long term, and so what's going to set me up for the most success when it comes to a future career and a job someday. And so something with that I looked for was location to places for like jobs, internships, part-time careers, or part-time jobs throughout college. And then also ways to get involved was a huge thing for me. I love staying busy. And so clubs, organizations, work study, you name it, sports, all the things was another big thing that I looked for. And then obviously academic program, that's what you're coming to college. The main goal is to get that degree. And so just making sure that you connect with professors and are passionate about the classes that you're going to be taking.
Maisie, same question to you. What were some of the factors most important to you in picking a college?
For sure. When I was looking for colleges, I had a million different ideas on my mind of what I wanted to do. I knew it was going to be something medical, health science related. I was thinking pharmacy, as I said, but I was also thinking just general pre-med, nursing, occupational therapy, psychology, anything and everything under the moon I was thinking about. So University of Iowa has a great health sciences field, and they have the largest teaching hospital on a college campus in the country. So that was a huge draw for me because I knew that that was going to be a big resource that I could utilize. So just having those things, if you are interested in going to business, checking out their like their internship programs and kind of their different like project programs. If you're interested in engineering, looking at like their senior project programs, different things like that, just kind of checking out what they have on campus for you to offer. And then also, like what Emma said, I also love to be involved. I did a million different things in high school. I was high up in the NHS chapter. I did 3 different sports. And Iowa has over 600 student organizations, so that was a huge draw for me. And I especially wanted to have some leadership positions in those. And so I kind of asked a couple of my friends who went to Iowa what it was like for those leadership positions. And it sounded like a good deal. So that was kind of what got me. But also just the general distance from home. I'm a little less than 2 hours away. So I have a little bit of good distance from my parents. They couldn't just drive over and see me any day they wanted to. But I was still close enough that I still go home for a weekend or two here and there. And just kind of find a place that feels very welcoming, feels like home to you. I know it's very cheesy and you've probably heard this from other schools, but um, if you can't actually picture yourself walking around that campus or sitting in those lecture halls or eating at the restaurant near campus, even those little tiny things, then it maybe not probably something you should be considering too heavily, but if you can, then it's definitely something to keep in mind.
Great answer. Thank you both for that. And one of the things that have come up with some of the questions, it sort of looks like is different timelines and things. I know there was one question on there that seems like there's so many deadlines and other things that you've got to take care of. It can seem overwhelming. Going back to the FAFSA form real quick, one thing I just wanted to mention was the FAFSA form will allow you to list up to 20 different colleges and universities on there. So if you're a student looking at multiple schools, the FAFSA, just to be clear, you don't have to have a decision made by then. You can list up to 20 colleges and universities that are on there. We haven't seen too many students, do that many, but if you're still looking at 3, 4, 5, it is supposed to align more with the admissions process. And even though it's starting a little bit later than what it normally does again this year, that does allow you to do that. So a decision doesn't have to be made by then. And as Britt had mentioned earlier, you just want to get the FAFSA in by the earliest priority date of whatever colleges that you're looking at. But coming back and sort of talking about timelines and things that need to get done, Chris, coming to you, what are going to be some important events or deadlines that high school seniors are going to need to complete when they're looking at applying to the University of Iowa or really any college in general?
Yeah, I think this is more just reiterating a couple of the pieces that have and important to reiterate some of the things we've discussed a little bit here already. Getting your applications in early. Britt, I heard earlier mention about like November Thanksgiving timeline. I love that. I think to do it early in the fall, mid-fall at the latest, positions you really well with not just our institution but other colleges as well. The only reason a student would maybe delay that a little bit is if there's true uncertainty and they kind of just decide on something a little bit later, that's okay. That happens. Or if somebody was waiting that they were going to take the ACT and they wanted to get that score back, or they wanted to wait for their first semester grades because they're trending really well as an upperclassman, those would be things you would have to discuss with those admissions counselors, and they might ask you or encourage you to just wait a little bit. So apply early. That positions you, to me, for two big things. Scholarship opportunities and getting those placed in front of you so you're not missing those deadlines. And then for some institutions, housing. There could be a little bit of what somebody might call early bird gets the worm. And so to be able to get that housing application done early doesn't necessarily, at most schools, doesn't necessarily commit you to that institution, just positions you well, that if you decide to come to that university, again, that you've positioned yourself well. And also finally, I'll say is here at a larger public university, there are some majors, right? Nursing as an example. There's a couple other ones out there that require supplemental applications. So we would want to get your Iowa app in first so we can, again, guide you appropriately with next steps.
Thanks, Chris. Jamie, same question to you. Kind of at Simpson or college in general, some of the important events and deadlines that high school seniors need to complete if they're looking at applying to your college.
So a little different at Simpson. I think we accept on, a rolling basis. So throughout the entire year, we'll be accepting applications for you or your student to be admitted to Simpson. And we don't have any real harsh deadlines until May 1st. Of course, get your FAFSA done. And I know the deadlines and timelines can be so overwhelming. And I just want to reiterate, like that's our job as admissions counselors and as a high school counselor like Maria to help you and your student feel like you at least understand the timeline. So don't hesitate to ask questions, but we don't have any strict deadlines. FAFSA, I mentioned earlier, Iowa tuition grant July 1st, but nothing huge. I mean, we're a smaller campus, so again, unlike Iowa, we only have 2 freshman dorms that freshmen will stay in, and they both have air conditioning. So, there's no huge rush to make your decision much before May 1st if you need the time.
Thank you. Coming back to you, Maria, on this, and this kind of goes along the same lines with asking that, but what are some events or activities that you would encourage seniors to make sure that they're doing this year? This could be with college or not even, without, just to make their senior year successful.
Yeah, so I'll kind of go the college route and the everybody route on this one. For the college route, there's a lot of questions about FAFSA. We know, a lot of people know last year did not go smoothly for a lot of families. It did for many, but not for everybody. And there were a lot of stories out there about the difficulty. And so I would say looking for those FAFSA application events. I think Britt kind of referred to this earlier too. There are people out there who are able to help. ICAN is absolutely a great resource. I refer my students to them often. They're knowledgeable, they are free, they are quick and willing to help. That is definitely something to look for, is those FAFSA completion events. It helps you take a little bit off of your plate. There's so much that can be exciting about senior year, but also a lot that can be very overwhelming. And having people there who can step in and help with that big step of FAFSA is really important. My idea for everybody is looking at what opportunities your high school is offering seniors for any post-secondary planning. So any planning for after high school. If they are offering job shadow, if they're offering internships, on-the-job training, something along those lines, I really recommend that students consider that. Some of those opportunities are outside of school hours, but some of them can actually be during your high school day, and you get high school credit for it. Kind of connecting with what Maisie had said earlier about looking for colleges that really fit what you're looking for and being on campus. If you're looking at a few different schools or maybe even a few different majors, you're not quite sure what you want to go into career-wise, being able to get that hands-on experience through a job shadow or an internship is really going to be helpful too. That way you can start to see what it is that you're looking for and even what majors you can be open to. Many high schools have that. There's different names for that, but I would say looking for those opportunities will be really important for anybody, just to narrow down those options so that as you follow the timeline, you really know what direction you're going with.
Thank you. Somebody had a question that was just put on there that I'm going to answer real quickly. Somebody had applied for a student ID and a parent ID from studenta.gov 3 weeks ago, but haven't heard anything. Is this unusual? I want to tell you that there's everything's unusual in this past year with the FAFSA and that. I think Maria was being nice about saying just some difficulties. We've used other words throughout the year with this FAFSA process, but chances are that you may not have any issues. What I would encourage any of you to do, if you haven't looked back in, is try to log into studenta.gov. And if you're able to log in, it should tell you whether or not your account is verified, has been verified with Social Security Administration. If it is, then you're good to go. So what I would encourage you to do, since you haven't heard anything, is just to try to log into studenta.gov and making sure that it does say that. If for some reason you're not verified or they can't verify you and you need to make changes, I thought that they were starting to send out emails on that, but even if they haven't, there should be a message on there for you about that. Next question that I'm going to bring up, and Chris, I'm going to start with you on this again. This just popped into the chat box. A question about Common App versus school-specific application. Heard that if you lived in Iowa, do specific app for Iowa schools, but Common App for all others. What advice would you give school-specific app to Common App?
Yeah, I'll start with, at least for us, we have no preference. You will be looked at equally in similar time, whether you do the common application and or our institutional application. I think within our state, what I usually see more commonly is students who might be only applying to a couple of schools, 2, 3, 4 schools, might more commonly complete our institutional apps, Iowa, UNI, Iowa State, Simpson, whoever it might be. If you're looking at more than that, like 5 or more, and or casting your net a little wider with out-of-state schools too, then we would probably see the Common App a little more commonly.
Jamie, same question to you.
I would say the same exact thing. We have no preference, school like Simpson specific or Common App. We view them both the same. But again, just needs for your specific student. If you're applying to a lot of schools or just a couple, think about time and effort and all those things too.
Thank you. We're getting towards the end of our time here, so I wanted to put out a last call on questions in the chat box for anyone. But the next thing I was going to go do is to our students again. Emma, I'll start with you on this question, and I didn't give this to you ahead of time, but kind of what you and Maisie had mentioned the last time sort of made me think about this. You know, we've been talking about all through senior year, but by the time students are done and they do select a college and they go off in the fall of 2025, it's going to be a big change for them. What was something that helped you adjust to college your first semester of your freshman year?
Yes, that is a great question. Definitely a different experience than high school, but as with anything in life, there's going to be the pros and the cons to it. One of my biggest pieces of advice is immediately get involved. Start filling your time with intro events for clubs and organizations. Everybody on campus is new to each other, and so therefore you're going to left and right have opportunities to meet new people, whether that's students, professors, faculty, staff. And you never know what those connections are going to lead to later down the road, and you'll make some of your best friends those first couple weeks on campus. So biggest piece of advice always is immediately get involved with some things that sound interesting to you. You're not going to perfectly fit or vibe with everything that you go to for intro events, but there's usually free snacks and opportunity to mingle, so you can never really go wrong with branching out there. And then I used to be very introverted in college, but then you just kind of become a little bit of a natural extrovert as soon as those first couple events, you just force yourself to go and get involved.
Great, thank you. Maisie, same question to you.
Yes, I agree with everything Emma said. One thing I will just add on is if you If your college does, like, we call it an engagement fair, but it's basically a big student organization fair where all the student orgs can come and have a table. Definitely attend that and put your name on the email list for whatever sounds interesting. Just because you're getting the email, you don't have to go, but at least you have the information. But also kind of get acclimated with not only your campus, but also your town and the surroundings. You're not going to spend 24/7 on your on your within the campus limits, if that makes sense. I think it's a great idea to walk your classes early. Go scope out the student union, go scope out where the gym is and where different machines and things in the gym are, if that's your jam. Go look at the dining halls early, go look at the other food locations early, but also if you can, walk around kind of what's nearby campus. Like at Iowa, we have a great downtown district, and just taking 10-15 minutes and walking around, seeing where things are. It was really important for me to know where the Dunkin' Donuts was. It was very important for me to know where the Jimmy John's was. And so I found those early, so I knew if I ever needed something, I could go there. But I also checked out where like the pharmacies were closer to campus and the urgent cares, things like that. Because you want to make sure you're prepared for when things happen. You know, if you get sick and you need to go to the urgent care, you want to make sure you know where it is and you're not scrambling to try and figure it out. And different things like that. Learn the bus routes. That's a good one, especially for a larger campus. Figure out how to use those bus route apps early, so you're not in a position where you really need to get somewhere, but you have no idea how to use the bus. So this kind of goes back to the first question we talked about, where I said, start everything early, do everything early. Definitely do that before classes and organizations start taking over your mind. That way you kind of know where things are and you feel more comfortable on your campus.
Great. Thank you, Maisie. Chris, the next question came into the chat box, and I think it might pertain to you. Jamie, I will also ask you the same question too, though, just in case. This is kind of a longer question, so follow with me here. Is there flexibility with required courses for admission? Example, foreign language requirements. If a student's school cannot assist them with meeting the requirements and they plan to take alternative courses following graduation, can they apply even if they haven't met this requirement on the date of the application?
Yeah, I think the short answer there is potentially. Um, and I mean that in the sense of, if there's a deficiency, it's really pretty clear for the three public universities. We have certain criteria that have benchmarks that have been established. If you comb through those and you're not able to meet all of those, I would first and foremost get a hold of your school counselor, and then contact one of our admission offices and have a conversation, because there are cases based off of situations that have been presented, scheduling conflicts, learning disabilities, whatever it might be, that might need to take a special look at certain applications and processes. So just communicate with us. It could potentially happen.
Jamie, anything to add on to that?
No, but in our case, that might be a really good place to like talk or thing to talk about in your personal essay. Is your experience with that? Of course, reach out to admissions counselors, your school counselor, but we don't have any like real strict requirements to be admitted, but it's always good to just talk about it early, like Maisie said.
And then thank you, Jamie. And then Maria, I've just anything that you might want to add from a school counselor perspective on that.
I think that's a really good point to make, of meeting with your school counselor to go over that. Sometimes students think if there's a problem, the school counselor will come find me. And while that is the case, you can also advocate for what you're looking for. And I would kind of put a little plug in here to let that be the student who's communicating that and not the parent. If the student is communicating back and forth with the college about that, you want the student to be knowledgeable about what information they can pass along and what kind of like problem solving they come up with that too, so that you can see what can be done during your senior year or what information needs to get to the college and how to do it. And your school counselor can help to walk you through that.
Another question, Jamie, Acceptance turnaround back to students. You submit in early October, then expect to hear back when at your school. How quickly is the turnaround?
Typically, 24 to 48 hours after we receive all of your materials during the work week. So maybe add another 24, 48 if it's over the weekend, but yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, I would say for us, we usually state it's a couple of weeks potentially. It's still a fairly quick turnaround. It just depends ultimately if it's a complete application, an accurate application. They filled out the classes that they took appropriately. If all those things come through, we'll turn around fairly quickly.
Thank you. And I would ask, any college or university that you're dealing with, if you've got that question, it can vary from school to school. So just another one of those questions to ask your admissions counselor at each individual college that you're taking a look at. Our time is winding down here. So one of the last things that I always like to do is just ask everyone real quickly, any last bit of advice, something you want to re-emphasize, or maybe something that we didn't talk about that you want to mention before we end our program here tonight. Maria, I'll start with you. Thank you again for attending here tonight. Any last words of wisdom to our high school senior families tonight that you want to re-emphasize, or something new that you want to mention?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I think the two things that come to mind as you're saying that is just maintaining that senior year is a transition period of looking at going from high school to college, but making sure that you're maintaining those high grades, participating. It is still high school. It will still get passed on to the future college that you go to. So your transcript will reflect your senior year activities and grades. So you want to continue that to be strong. You don't want to have senioritis kick in too much, although I know that's really difficult. And the other thing that I would say is that communication piece, making sure that you're communicating with your school counselor and with the admissions counselor when you do have questions, because they'll do a great job communicating with you, but you can still ask those questions if they come up to help make it as smooth of a process as what you can. And that goes for both seniors and the adults who are helping them too.
Well, thank you. And again, thank you for taking the time tonight to be with us. Chris, I'll come to you next.
Yeah, I'm going to reiterate what Maria said earlier in the sense of we're fortunate that most of our schools still come to you, right? And nothing will replace a campus visit. Like, you're always welcome at our institutions, and so that's the best one, undoubtedly. But our teams will come out to your schools as well. So if it works in your daily schedule, and you're not in the middle of an AP, or you're off at taking dual credit somewhere, please try to stop by and see our staffs. Even if it's 10 to 15 minutes to say hello and maybe ask a specific question, but we're here to serve you. So check us out when we come to your neighborhoods as well.
Thank you. And again, thanks, Chris, for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. Jamie.
I have two things. One, some schools offer something called a net price calculator on their websites. And that, I know that it's kind of causes, or I mean, rightfully so, with the FAFSA delays is kind of creating a lot of anxiety in families, not knowing what they're going to pay for school. So that can be a resource for you to turn to while you're waiting for FAFSA. Sometimes they're not always accurate, but sometimes it can give you a decent idea of where, like, what ballpark range you're gonna fall in for out-of-pocket cost. And two, Iowa and Simpson are two very different experiences, but two extremely great experiences. And we kind of talked about, how do you choose like a school? How do you know? And I just want to emphasize, like, you students, you don't have to know your major to know how you define success. And I think just finding a college that supports what you feel like you need is the most important thing. And you can find it at Iowa, and your best friend can find it at Simpson. And maybe neither of you like either of them, but just kind of think about what you feel like is going to help you the most in college, and go after that.
Thank you, Jamie. Again, thank you for being here. And
Thank
both
you.
you and Chris, thank you so much for bringing us some wonderful student perspective here tonight as well with the two students that you brought. Emma, I'm going to come to you at first again. You're first listed on my screen here between you and Maisie. Same question to you. Any last bit of advice that you would give high school senior students and families?
Yes, again, thank you for having me. It's been always happy to give advice, but kind of bouncing off what Jamie ended with, everybody's journey is going to be so different. And so, whether that's your choice of college, how you get there, your high school experience, if you have an internship or job before or not, what you're involved with, everybody's journey is totally different. And so, I think just some good advice is to not get caught up in comparing yourself to others. Obviously, still plan ahead and make those decisions, but you're ultimately making the decisions that are best for yourself. And then one other thing, just live in the moment. What I would do to go back to high school or to my first couple years of college. And now that my college days are winding down, it's all the feels, but definitely just enjoy what life has to offer in the current moment, and everything will work out how it's meant to be. So don't get caught up in making the perfect decision. You're all going to make the right decision, whether it's a college or career, you name it. So
Great advice. Thank you, Emma, again so much for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. Maisie, last words of wisdom from you to high school senior students and families.
Definitely. Take advantage of what you can. There might be some different things that your high schools offer that you might not even know about. My high school offered a couple different programs where you could, they would help you go find places to job shadow, different internships you could do, even just going and doing like some informational interviews with people in the field, which was really helpful in kind of trying to figure out my, narrowing down in the healthcare field of what I wanted to do. So definitely just shoot an email to your high school counselor, see if there's anything that you're missing. That could be done, especially if you have interest in a couple of different places. That way you can kind of get that taken care of. Also, it is what you make it. I think I was very, very, very nervous coming into college. I've always been very outgoing and extroverted, but I know that when you get to college, it's not the same people you've grown up with for many, many, many years during your high school journey. But really getting out there and finding your community, kind of like what Emma was talking about. Again, it sounds very cheesy, but it is very, very true because college is a transition, and you need those people there that can kind of be your backbone and be there for you when you need them to. And just even if it's finding someone who can drive you to the store if you don't have your car on campus, little things like that. It's always good to have those people within your network, within your web, and to get them early. That way you can have more fun with them too. So.
Great. Well, thanks again, Maisie. Appreciate you being here tonight, taking the time to do that. And I hope both you and Emma have a great semester this fall. Last thing I want to mention before turning it back over to Britt to wrap up here is just a reminder about the FAFSA starting on December the 1st. We are not going to be able to help you do it in October, November. So we've started getting some appointments then, and unfortunately, we're not able to. So just as a reminder, if you're needing to do the 25-26 FAFSA for the fall of 25 and spring and summer of 26, December 1st is when that's going to open up. And we should be taking appointments in December, having our calendars up and running after November 1. So please, as a reminder for that, it will begin and not able to do it before December 1. Thanks again for attending. We are recording this, and some of you might be seeing the recording. But Britt, just in case if I forgot anything or to wrap up, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Well, I've got a quick wrap up. The recording will be ready on our website tomorrow, so you can visit icansucceed.org/ontrack, and you can view not only the recording, but if you want those PowerPoint slides, that'll be on there too. And then if you want all those updates, just sign up for our senior alerts, icansucceed.org/sign up, put it in the chat earlier, and just reach out there's tons of people out here ready to help you. ICAN, the colleges that you're applying to, we're all here, your school counselor, to help you make your senior year successful. So have a great night. Thank you for joining us, and we all look forward to hearing from you very soon. Good luck senior year.